It's not just about hormones these days. What are the men's health issues that I tackle besides low testosterone? Just like men want to improve their hairline and get thicker, better hair, get better skin, get a better penis. I tell all my patients, I'm never trying to sell anyone on anything. I'm trying to fix problems, provide solutions, and listen to people. This is the Gentleman's Vault. Welcome to the Gentleman's Vault. I'm your host, Dr. Goodman, and this is episode 1. This is my first podcast, and this is the podcast which I'm going to delve into what it means to be a man in 2025. I'm making this podcast so that we can uncover and discuss topics that affect men's health and well-being, both mentally and physically, coming at it from a slightly different perspective. My hope is that this podcast will focus on all the delicate and sensitive topics that men want to talk about, but haven't had a space to talk about before. I started on TikTok originally, and now in 2025, with the upcoming ban and the movement to M2, I thought, what better time to move to YouTube and actually start what I've always wanted to do, which is to create a dialogue around these issues that affect men. In this episode, we're going to start and talk about me, so you can understand as viewers who's talking to you, where I'm coming from, and what my ultimate goals are. I'm a urologist, I'm a physician. I got my MD in 2019, and I completed my urology residency training at the end of 2024, or shall I say summer of 2024. And since that time, I've been a practicing urologist. I work in a small town, and I take care of patients. But I also especially have a strong focus for men's health, medical aesthetics, and improving our well-being, both outside and inside. What do I mean by this? I mean optimizing hormones so that men, or as men, we can feel really good about ourselves, but also making some cosmetic changes so that we can match the outside with the inside. Essentially, what I'm doing is helping guys feel better every single day. And in turn, increasing and boosting their confidence. And that's what this podcast is about. It's about delving and tackling these issues that we as men are self-conscious about, that we don't have a space to talk about. And that's the purpose. So if you're tuning in to this podcast and you're like, hey, what the hell is this guy talking about? Well, that's exactly what I'm going to be talking about. All the things that aren't covered on other topics, on other podcasts, all these nitty-gritty topics that you may not even feel comfortable discussing with your physician, well, this is the place. This isn't going to be a medical lecture. It's not a science lecture, although I will bring in science and distill it down to basic terms. I'll make science, or all this complicated jargon, I'll bring it down to layman terms so that anybody listening has a chance to understand what I'm talking about. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in to the Gentleman's Vault. And I really want to start this podcast by explaining where I came from. My journey. How did I become a urologist? Why did I end up choosing men's health? And of all things, men's health and a focus on men's aesthetics. Something that is very nuanced and yet pretty esoteric. I literally work on the male phallus every single day. And I help guys get bigger, stronger, better phalluses, or the medical term penis, so to speak. It's been an interesting journey to get here, but I want you guys to understand how I got here. It all starts a long time ago when I was 13 years old. I was a kid just like any other, and I stumbled across some medical textbooks in my parents' house. And my grandfather, he was a physician, he was a geneticist. I never got the chance to meet him, but he was very well published, and he had many medical textbooks in our home. My dad always spoke very highly of him, and I was just perusing through his books, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is the coolest thing ever. It was like it hit me at that moment. That's when I knew I wanted to become a doctor. I mean, that was the lightning bolt that really hit me, and I was just like, this is the coolest thing ever. You get to understand the human body, you get to learn about the human body, and you get to help people too. That was the turning point for me where I decided I'm going to become a doctor, but it wasn't the turning point at which I wanted to become a surgeon. After that first encounter with those medical textbooks, getting to high school, starting to watch medical TV dramas, yes, medical TV dramas, that is how I decided I was going to become a surgeon. I know, it's crazy because we look at TV as if it's a joke, but it was really these medical dramas and the portrayal of what it meant to be a surgeon, how they acted and what they did, that really just gave me the imagination to pursue this career. And what started off as a dream, a fantasy of becoming a surgeon one day, it eventually became reality. And that's something I'll touch upon throughout these podcasts, making these goals and making them become a reality. And then focusing on how that applies to being a better man, both inside and outside. Well, fast forward to high school. I did well. I worked my butt off. I did as best as I could. I got into great colleges. I ended up going to Stanford University for my undergraduate career. And it was during this time that I dabbled in the sciences. I did the pre-med route, did the research, I did the publications. Still in my heart of hearts, I knew I wanted to go into medicine. I knew I wanted to become a doctor. I knew I wanted to become a surgeon. I didn't know what type of surgeon yet, but I had my aspirations. Towards the end of my college degree, I worked and interned for the 49ers. That's right, for the San Francisco 49ers. And that's when I fell in love with sports medicine. I thought, oh my gosh, again, a little bit of fantasy. This is the coolest job in the world. You get to travel with the team. You get to work with football players. You get to balance this intersection of what it means to be healthy, physically fit, and where medicine meets sports. I thought that was cool because in the traditional sense, traditional for medicine, you treat illnesses, you fix problems that arise, but you don't necessarily optimize things. And sports medicine was tinkering on that very fine line between optimizing, also treating medical conditions, specifically medical injuries that affect athletes. Fast forward, I took a few years off after college to pursue other ventures just to make sure that medicine was still my calling. And after 3 years between college and medical school, or college and what comes next, I decided to apply to medical school, and I ended up going to the University of California, San Francisco. I came in guns blazing. I was ready to become an orthopedic surgeon from day one. I did orthopedic surgery research. I fell in love with it. I thought for sure, sports medicine, I'm going to be that guy on the sidelines, as I had seen with my mentors. That was going to be me one day. And something really interesting happened, as happens to many medical students and doctors, as I'm sure if any are listening will relate to. I had this encounter, except it was an encounter with urine. I was on my rotations. In medical school, you do rotations through different specialties, and with urogynecology of all things, and they were doing some robotic surgery. They were just chill. They were just chill doctors. And the orthopods, they were cool. You know, I'm a bro at heart. I lift things. I picked up heavy things and put them down. But the urologists, they were just chill. They were doing robotic surgery. They were doing technology. I hung out with them. I thought, well, maybe urogynecology is not for me, but urology was. I met those guys and I knew that moment, urology's for me. You get to do surgery. You get to be a little bit more chill. And most importantly, I fell in love with men's health. I'm a man. I can relate. I could relate to my patients. And I knew that this was really the focus on optimizing and improving quality of life. And that was it. That's how I decided to go into urology. It was like, I didn't know the full deal, but I was ready to jump in. Technology, men's health, optimizing quality of life, what's more to want? That was exactly what I wanted. And I decided at that moment that I was going to apply. I didn't know exactly what I was getting into. There was more to urology than just men's health, kidney stones, prostate health, pediatric issues, female incontinence, cancer. But I loved every moment of it, and I started to grow. And as I learned more general urology, my passion grew. But still, at the back of my heart, I knew that once I was done training, that I would focus on men's health. That's where it was always going to be. And so I trained. I did my training at the University of Wisconsin in urology. I spent 5 years in, as we call it, the Arctic tundra. When I was done, when I finished my training, I took my talents down to the South. And here I am in Georgia, practicing urology, focusing on men's health. Over the past year or so, I've really honed in and focused on trying to optimize men's health aesthetics. And that's how we got here. So guys, that's my story of from humble beginnings to small town urologist with big aspirations. And we're going to dive into the next part of this podcast right now. When I decided to become a urologist, the truth is I didn't really understand what urology was. I mean, I knew it was kidneys, bladders, prostates, but I didn't really understand or fully understand the element and the component of surgery. But I knew urologists were surgeons, and that is what attracted me to the field. The ability to both do surgery and help patients that way, but also have the opportunity to really sit down with patients and discuss their problems and get to know them. And that was something I was missing in orthopedics. It was ultimately those conversations with patients that made me do the switch, go from orthopedic surgery to urology. And so I just want to spend a little bit of time talking about what it means to do surgery and how I made the transition and how I make the transition every day between surgeon and men's health expert. So some of the areas that I focus on in my clinic are hormone optimization. And this is a very exciting time, I think, 2025, because it's not just about hormones these days. All the craze is TRT, testosterone, low T, I mean, you name it. There are probably thousands of YouTube channels now dedicated to talking about what low testosterone is. And while testosterone is not the holy grail and is become more commonplace and more commonly accepted, I still deal with patients every day, men suffering from low T, and I have to dispel a lot of misinformation, whether that be prostate cancer risk, risk of stroke, risk of heart disease, blood clots, you name it. And frankly, some would say maybe we have an epidemic of men in this country that have lower and lower T levels. I mean, I see patients in their 20s all the time with T levels below 300, with clinical signs of hypogonadism or low testosterone. It's interesting for me that I make the switch all the time. Serious surgeon to compassionate doctor in the clinic talking about sensitive topics. But ultimately, my heart has always been in men's health, and a lot of what I do in men's health is not surgery necessarily. There might be some procedures that I do, if you want to count that as surgery, but a lot of what I do is just counseling, understanding the issues that affect men, and if surgery is part of that treatment plan or procedure is, then so be it. But at the heart of it, it's just understanding the problems that affect males and then coming up with solutions that will help. And some of that is through surgery, some of it's through pharmacology, and a lot of it is through lifestyle. I don't think enough doctors really focus on how important the lifestyle is. Sometimes you need pharmacology to help get the lifestyle started, but it's a chicken or the egg question. It's not always one or the other. Sometimes it's both, sometimes it is one or the other, and it's really important to get to know your patients this way. So, what are the men's health issues that I tackle besides low testosterone? Well, if you followed me over from TikTok, you know I talk about pickles all the time. Pickle is code word for phallus or penis, and ultimately, guys are always self-conscious about their penises. And I spend a lot of time helping guys get circumcised if they need to be circumcised, decide what type of erectile dysfunction medication or treatment may work for them, and if necessary, I'll throw in quotation marks, or wanted, we can talk about a way to enhance the penis, whether that be making it thicker, longer, more sensitive. There are just so many different things that you can do, and it's finally becoming acceptable for men to talk about these issues. I'm hoping that this podcast specifically breaks down these barriers so that men can come and talk about these issues, not just with me, but with their other doctors as well. And I hope that if there are any other doctors listening, that you don't just poo-poo or just kind of dispel these as non-issues. These are issues that affect men. These are issues that men want to talk about. And it's just about creating the space to do it. And that's a lot of what this podcast is about. Just breaking down these barriers, making it more acceptable to talk about penile enhancement, to talk about optimizing your testosterone, to talk about the sensitive issues like infertility as well. I have so many men that come to me and they're just afraid they're going to be infertile. They're afraid it's going to affect their manhood. They're afraid of what others might think about them. You could say some of this is about being a man, being macho, but really, the more we can talk about this, the more we can normalize it, the better we're all going to be, and the better all men are going to be in the long run. One area that I want to talk about as a physician, as a urologist, is this component of what I call medical aesthetics. For women, it's commonplace. You see plastic surgeons, dermatologists dabbling in this area. It's skin, it's hair, breast enhancement, it's glute or buttocks enhancement, liposuction in the abdominal region. To some extent, for some that dabble, you could argue penile enhancement is there too. But I have felt that for men, this area has been more taboo. It's not manly to want to enhance your penis or change it in any way. But men absolutely want to do this. Just like men want to improve their hairline and get thicker, better hair, get better skin, get a better penis. A lot of this comes down to feeling better about yourself, improving your confidence, and ultimately your life. All of us, we only have one shot at this life. So if you've been afraid to do something, why not just go ahead and do it? What do you have to lose? I had been thinking about making this podcast for such a long time, this podcast, this YouTube channel. Honestly, I was afraid to just get up out here and just talk to people about this. Am I going to be ridiculed? People aren't going to take me seriously. But ultimately, I did make the jump and decided to kickstart this journey because I want others to be able to talk about these issues too. I want to dispel some of these myths that medical aesthetics is not medicine. I think in the medical community, especially amongst, I would say, the non-aesthetic specialties, stuff that fall outside of dermatology and plastic surgery, this realm has not been considered medicine traditionally. It's not reimbursed by insurance, it's typically cash pay, and some could argue that it's not even the same patient population. But ultimately, I think it comes down to improving quality of life, and medicine is not just about saving lives, it is about improving quality of life. Just like I can help guys pee better by doing prostate surgery and procedures, and they feel better about their life and they have a better quality of life, I see no difference if I give a guy a better or bigger penis and now he has a more successful or happier sexual life. He has more confidence in himself, feel better about himself, and just perform better in life. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that still falls under the realm of medicine. It's still being practiced in an ethical manner. It's still being performed, hopefully, by physicians. The reason I bring this up is because when you start to get into this realm, you really teeter on this very fine line. And I think for many physicians, for most physicians, we're not going into this for money. When you get into this realm of this area of medicine that requires some advertising, requires some explanation, you can also sometimes feel like a salesman. You know, I tell all my patients, I'm never trying to sell anyone on anything. I'm trying to fix problems, provide solutions, and listen to people. And ultimately, that's the paradigm shift I'm hoping to bring into the medical aesthetics community. Patients want these treatments. They want it to be done safely, ethically. How can we make that happen? And part of this podcast is awareness. So I'm not selling penile enhancement. I'm not telling anybody to go out and come to me and get filler or silicone implant. I'm just trying to spread the knowledge that this stuff exists out there and what to do, where to go, how can you get it done if this is something that appeals to you. Or if it's something you've never heard about, hopefully educate you. I don't know. This is a very exciting time. I felt like the past few years, hair transplants have really come a long way. I use hair transplants as an example because now it's so much more socially acceptable. I think the next frontier is really penile enhancement. It's a little bit harder because you're not advertising it anywhere. With breast jobs, you can kind of see, if someone's had a breast job, if someone's had a hair transplant. With the penis enhancement, it's not out there for anybody to see, potentially in pornography, but it's definitely not advertised out there. And to be honest, the really good jobs, it's very hard to differentiate between what has been enhanced and what has not. This is just this gray area that I'm hoping to kind of break into so that men know it exists, know it's real, know it works, and know that it can be done safely. Guys, if you've made it this far, this is the end of episode 1, The Gentleman's Vault. I'm Dr. Goodman, your host. Thank you for listening. I hope to bring many more episodes just like this where I delve into deep topics regarding men's health, issues, specifically those tailored around penile enhancement, testosterone, being a better man, confidence boosting, and so forth. Talking about my journey into medicine and those of you that are also hoping to follow a journey in medicine. I'll be doing a lot of that, and also on my YouTube channel, I'll be vlogging, so you'll be able to see what it is to be a urologist or a day in the life, so to speak. Guys, thanks for tuning in. If you're listening on YouTube or on some other platform, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, make sure your notifications are turned on, leave a comment, a follow, and please come join me on this exciting adventure. Thanks for tuning in.